Is film art? What is art? The following editorial is based strictly upon personal research, experience, and opinion. Due to the NDAs I've signed, nothing I've witnessed within specific professional circumstances will be directly cited within the context of this analysis. In general, people want to feel cultured. This is why many may respond very personally to the impersonal observation that certain films, or other forms of entertainment such as games, may not be A art. It is as though their enjoyment of such things hinges upon an unacknowledged semblance of high culture affirmation. I find this to be puzzling, as nobody enjoying a Big Mac would bat an eye at the suggestion that what they were consuming was certainly not fine cuisine. Questioning the makeup of a thing should not affect a person's overall enjoyment or consumption thereof. There's a false association between something being quality and something being art. A quick Google search will surely turn up plenty of low quality or low skill A art. You can go into any modern art museum and find many things that could not be considered A art depending on the person viewing it. In order to fully explain why certain films may or may not be art, it is important to give a definition for art. There are many schools of thought on this, and the purpose of this video is not to elaborate on each, but rather to walk through my take on the matter as clearly and concisely as possible. What is art? The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines art as something that is created with imagination and skill, and that is beautiful or that expresses important ideas or feelings. As expected, this is pretty broad, but it does cut out a lot of noise from the conversation. For example, a can opener may be created with great imagination, skill, and beauty, but nobody is going to argue that a common can opener was created to express important ideas or deep feelings. Therefore, by this definition, your everyday can opener is not art. The importance of feeling or emotion in art cannot be overstated. Every work of art causes the receiver to enter into a certain kind of relationship, both with the artist and all who receive the same impression. Just as words transmit thoughts, so art transmits feelings. The activity of art is based on the fact that when we witness a person experiencing an emotion, we, to some extent, share it. To evoke in oneself a feeling that one has once experienced, and to transmit that feeling to others through forms and colors, sounds, and movements. Famed author Steven Pressfield drives an interesting line between art and product when he says, "To labor in the arts for any reason other than love is prostitution." This addendum to the definition is problematic for professional and commissioned artists. My personal view on this is that I would like to only retain from this the intention of the initiator or the creator. What I mean by this is that sometimes projects are too big to tackle alone, so you'll have to bring in other artists to help fulfill your vision. As long as the original artist's intention, aesthetic, and meaning are adhered to by all artists on the project to achieve the final work, I think it keeps from being entirely sold out like the prostitution described. But in a very corporate environment, without the top-level artist's creative influence being felt throughout, I agree with Mr. Pressfield entirely. It all comes down to the focus of the creation process. Immanuel Kant, am I saying that right? The famed German philosopher defined art as a kind of representation that is purposive in itself. So according to Kant, a requirement for something to be art is that it must be created to be art. I really love this edition because it gives us a huge distinction. Not only does it encourage the viewer to explore the creation of the piece they're viewing, but it cuts out a lot of clutter in the process. So to recap the bits that have created my philosophy of art so far, art is created through passion and with imagination and skill. The result expresses important ideas or feelings. The intention upon creation is to create a work of art. The intention upon creation is not primarily to sell a product. Using these ideas, I now have a firm basis of definition upon which I'll expand. Author and poet Oscar Wilde adds further clarity by suggesting that art is the most intense mode of individualism that the world has ever known, elaborating on the importance of a singular artist's vision, as well as casting a light on art needing to exist solely for the purpose of being art. Famed film critic Roger Ebert agreed. I tend to think of art as usually the creation of one artist. Gelling the concepts discussed, we get the following definition. Art is the act of passionate individual creation solely for the sake of itself, executed with imagination and skill in order to share or evoke a feeling, emotion, or concept within its audience. While our definition of art here removes a lot of contenders from the table, it still leaves much open to interpretation. For further clarity, it would behoove us to examine what art is not. Just because something is beautiful does not make it art. While it does exist to be evocative, is art there to excite a feeling for beauty? To appreciate beauty, people have cultivated taste, but taste is superficial and cannot grasp profundity. While Greco-Roman sensibilities have heavily influenced the formation of the Western aesthetic, they are not art's defining factor. Beauty is not, according to the Greek philosopher Plato, the distinctive province of the arts. If having good design or calculated beauty made something art, nearly every product on the shelf of your local Target would proudly be displayed in the Louvre. Simply because an item is possessing representative, expressive, and formal properties cannot be sufficient conditions, since, obviously, instruction manuals are representations, but not typically regarded as artworks. Human faces and gestures have expressive properties, yet they are not works of art, and both natural objects and artifacts produced for the homeliest utilitarian purposes have formal properties, but they are not artworks as well. When you break art down in this way, the distinction seems somewhat intuitive, but the concept of art in our society has been so perverted by marketing and advertising that even the very perception of what art really is has been lost. An easy and important way of sifting art from product is to ask the question, what is the primary function of the object in question? To return to our example, an amazingly designed can opener is not art. Its primary function is to open cans. It may share design qualities with art, but sharing and being are separate states. A billboard for a lawyer's office is not art, as its primary function is to direct business to that lawyer. Art is not functional, nor is it created with the intention of being a product. A product may be, and often is, to great effect, created using the elements and principles of good design in order to increase its ability to sell, yet this does not change its primary function. If art is collaborative, it must be with a clear persistence of an artist's singular vision running through it. Simply because something is high quality or pleasing or entertaining does not make it art. To sum it up, I'll let the unparalleled filmmaker Werner Herzog comment on the matter. Upon being asked, quite simply, are his films not art? No, he says, certainly not. They're just films. To put it in kinder terms, Roger Ebert chimes in again. An art form will forever be in a separate category if you can attend it while eating Twizzlers. So under my personal definition, a film can be art under very specific circumstances, but anyone who works in the film industry also knows these circumstances are very rarely met. By and large, big budget films with wide releases are first and foremost products. If you see a film in the theater, you can usually safely bet that it did not have an auteur calling the shots and making all the creative decisions running through the extensive courses of pre, mid, and post-production. It may not have always been this way, but as of right now, the production to cinema film industry is a very strictly business-oriented venture, and the films they produce are calculated products. Quality or enjoyability are not always factors in this equation. The core principle behind why most people do what they do in the film industry is employment. Studio execs, agents, acquisition execs, and the like must all act accordingly so they do not lose their jobs. They're not trying to make art. That's a luxury few can afford. They're not even really trying to make money for their company. How is that going to benefit them? They're not dedicated to some higher principle. The daily grind eats any space that such lofty ambitions might foster. With so much money at stake, the marketer's voice at the studio table is now pivotal from the day a studio decides whether or not to even make a movie. And usually, what that voice expresses is trepidation. Their first question is not, will the movie be good, but can it be sold? Scott Stuber, Universal Studios president of production, has this to say on the matter. Listen, the obligation of anyone in studio jobs is to help their company make a profit. Only if an idea is deemed profitable does it clear the table. This is, aside from the massive amount of control they wield over the extensive, often uncredited, screenplay rewrites, sometimes by a dozen or so separate, uncredited writers, the massive amount of control over a film's post-production, which, let's face it, in modern blockbusters is the majority of a movie's runtime, and their stranglehold over the final edit, oftentimes literally locking the director out of the editing bay, famously happening to even big-name directors like James Cameron and Ridley Scott, for example. It is all in the name of building and selling a brand. Pirates of the Caribbean is a brand because it was a ride. Harry Potter is a brand because it was a series of books. Sequels are brands, remakes are brands. For a good long stretch, movie stars were considered brands. A blockbuster film may be enjoyable. It is calculated to be as enjoyable as possible to as many people as possible. A movie may share elements with art, such as an impeccable soundtrack or amazing composition. This is part of the calculation in order to increase profitability through the perceived high quality of the final product. In post-production, a single snippet of a shot will be analyzed by artists, leads, supervisors on a daily basis, with notes coming in for the artist on every level. A blockbuster is pushed and pulled in a million different directions impressions, each person of the hundreds to thousands who touch it wanting to leave their mark, and the director's involvement is often minimal past the initial shoot. There is no real persistence of vision, only vague refinement with the aim of reaching the widest possible demographic and pushing the film out on time. While movies have the possibility of being art, absolutely, almost any movie with wide distribution can be safely classified as primarily an entertainment product. Not just because they often lack the crucial, singular persistence of vision required, but also because, quite simply, they are not made to be art. To reinforce these points, let's look at some hard numbers. In order to determine the validity of popular films as product from conception, let's look at the top 100 highest grossing films of all time worldwide. Keep in mind, the numbers will not add up perfectly as a film can fit into multiple categories. For example, Attack of the Clones is both a prequel and a sequel. It's incredible. Original screenplays, 19 of them. Based on a novel, 31. Based on true events, 4. Spin-off of a TV show, 2. Based on a toy, 2. Based on a ride, 4. Based on a comic book, 14. A reboot or a remake, 4. A prequel, 9. A sequel, 25. That's right, a quarter of the 100 most successful movies of all time are sequels. Third in a series, 16. Fourth in a series, 10. Fifth in a series, 4. Sixth in a series, 5. Seventh, 2, 8, 2, 9, 1, and then there's a 10th, an 11th, a 23rd, and a 24th. Yeah, okay. And that's just the sample of the top 100 moneymakers. Most films with wide releases make a tidy profit. For further proof, scan through your favorites on Netflix or look at your shelf of movies. How many are not tied to something that increases its reach and expands its demographic for monetary purposes? And here's the thing, mass audiences don't want art. There's no judgment intended there, that's just an interpretation of trends. People want to be entertained by something familiar, something that's not emotionally challenging or intellectually challenging. There's nothing wrong with that, really. Film companies produce a product tailored to suit those needs. Big budget movies, by my definition, cannot be art. Now, what does this mean for viewers? Does a piece of entertainment being a product reduce the enjoyment of said media? If so, then perhaps the audience needs to re-examine their relationship with the media and exactly what it means to them. Most people go to the theater or browse Netflix more than they write, paint, or visit galleries and museums. I mean, what does art really mean to us? What does art really mean to you? The relegation of major motion releases as product rather than art allows viewers to spend less energy in an endless rage of forum arguments or workplace discussions over why, for example, the latest Star Wars won't hold to their perceived continuity for the series. If it wasn't made to be art, dissecting it as entertainment allows for less intensity in the conversation and perhaps less hostility. In the end, though, this distinction may only be beneficial for those who see themselves as artists and are intent on creation themselves. Keeping to this specific definition of art allows me personally to pursue ideas for their own sake, to exercise complete control over a final work when collaborating with multiple people on my own projects, and to surrender my artistic voice when working on their visions. It allows me to never allow my focus to stray to demographic and marketing. It's the quickest way to kill a concept. My work may not be profitable, and the quality and merit thereof is certainly open for debate. Yet it is art on my own terms. Why is it important to draw a line between art films and product films? Aside from vague arguments such as artistic integrity and aesthetic morality, it is of the utmost importance to call Hollywood on their bluff. At the end of the day, they're taking your tax dollars to serve up a Big Mac while calling it artisanal filet mignon. There's nothing wrong with getting satisfaction from a cheap burger, but it is high time we collectively pointed out the Hollywood lie. The emperor not only has no clothes, but he's made a habit of urinating in public.